It's always been very hard for me to make friends and find my...
Because you want to punch everyone in the face.
Yeah. Are we doing this? We'll throw down.
You're going to know who's the boss in this relationship.
Take my earrings off. I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, what's your story? Don't you dare be sour. Clap for Stephanie and feel the power.
Well, this is an incredibly exciting interview for us. Thank you very, very much, AJ Lee. I think this is the first formal podcast you've done since coming back, since making your return.
Yes.
And a little controversial, right? That it would be with me. So I'd love to, AJ was very clear that she would love to do the podcast, but on one condition, that we actually addressed, what we went through.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to just kind of set the table.
I love to just jump right into that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I felt the first thing I thought was like people are going to think that we're going to glaze past it or not address it, or it's an elephant in the room. But it's something I feel like in a weird way we're both kind of proud of, how far we've come. And so long time ago, the women's division was in a different spot. And it felt like an uphill battle a lot of the time. And I was one of the first people really fighting for it quite vocally. And I think when you are sort of the first to do something, you get hurt storming the gates,
Sure.
It's a little rougher, but
Yep.
I think it's worth it because it opens the path for people that come behind you. But there was an incident on Twitter in which you had posted about equal pay.
Yeah, I think it was Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette.
At one of the award shows had
Yeah.
talked about equal pay.
Yes.
And I did a hashtag use your voice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the trending hashtag or just what, but I amplified it.
Yeah. And then I retweeted it. And I said, wow, while we're talking about use your voice, we don't get equal pay, essentially. Yet we're bringing in more eyeballs than a lot of the men. And we don't have any time.
We can put it up here because it wasn't like.
Oh,
it
I don't
was-
even remember
It was pretty
what it
direct.
It was probably pretty feisty.
It was, but that's great. But
Yeah.
so it says, because I'll read it since we were talking about how bad all of our vision is. Your female
spoilers.
wrestlers have record-selling merchandise and have starred in some of the highest-rated segments of the show several times. Is that it? I thought there was more.
Up, you go back up.
Oh, and yet they receive a fraction of the wages and screen time of the majority of the male roster. Hashtag use your voice.
Yeah. And that to me felt, I liked, in general, I'm fairly direct. I try not to be rude. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have no filter, and it's just an excuse for being rude. But I think you can be direct, but very practical. And so I felt like it was coming from a practical place, very direct. But I also was a bit I ain't got nothing to lose right now.
Yeah.
and
you were champ at the time.
And I was champ
so
at the
actually
time.
you did have a lot to lose.
but to me,
I mean, the courage
yeah.
that not only that, right, but the courage that it took to fight for what you believed
Right.
in. And, the fact that you really were a different character, than any type of stereotype. You came out of nowhere and the audience loved you from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. They just connected with you in such a special and unique way. And I appreciate your directness. I'm a direct person as well. I'm sure some people think I'm rude, but I don't mean to be. To your point, I hate all the BS.
Yes.
Let's just have the conversation.
Yeah.
And I was actually very, it's funny because I was preparing for the interview and I was looking that up. That's how I knew what it was. And I read all the backstage gossip about what happened. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even
Was
think I knew that
everything
at
wrong?
the time. Yeah. It's just so interesting because
Yeah.
people never really know. Right.
No.
But I was actually happy that you posted that. I wasn't happy that it was directed at me because it wasn't anything I had direct control over. But I was really happy that you did because that movement, the whole women's evolution in WWE, it didn't happen because of executives, or it didn't happen because, I mean, maybe along the way, you know, people voicing their opinions, but it really happened because of the women
Yeah.
who paved the way all the way back to the beginning of all of these incredible women who have been inside the squared circle, no matter what promotion they were in. But then for our audience, when they started the hashtag Give Divas a Chance at that time, that's what couldn't be ignored.
Yeah.
And the audience would never have gotten behind the movement if it weren't for people like you,
Thank you.
who actually stood up for women publicly. And I mean, like, take on the machine a little bit,
Great.
you know?
Thank you. I
Like,
appreciate
it was a big
that.
deal, I thought, you know?
I appreciate that. And I feel like change doesn't happen unless there's sacrifice, unless there's you have to be willing to lose everything to get what you want. And I feel like that in every aspect of life, like you playing it safe doesn't work. Playing it safe might give you a safe life,
Right,
but I don't know if it gives you an exceptional life.
right.
And so I felt like that was worth it, whatever backlash was going to be. But I thought you were cool after, like, everyone was pretty chill and like,
Yeah.
it was business, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But you know, it was a rough
But
time.
but yeah, I mean, and there was a lot of things
There
happening
was a lot
at that
happening.
time.
Yeah,
So I'm sure everyone could read into it however they wanted, but
Yeah.
it was so important.
yeah,
You know, it was a really important public facing step. But I would love to actually just dig into what you said, because I
Yeah.
think it's really, really important that you grow during the hard times.
Yes.
Right? It's during the safe times, the happy times, they're wonderful, but that's not where you truly grow as a human being. I would love to hear even other examples of, you know, different things you've struggled with, you've overcome, some of those hard things that have made you who you are today.
right. Well, I think one of the reasons
A little runny nose, sorry.
it's freezing here.
Yes, it's New York. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I am someone who likes to take a chance is because I did start at complete rock bottom. My story starts in New Jersey. I was, grew up with two very young parents who didn't have the tools, weren't given the tools to, be adults and raise children. And so we sort of all learned how to do life together. And,
That's a fascinating perspective.
it was interesting, you got to learn how to open a bank account on your own and teach your parents how to do that kind of stuff. And, they teach you how to steal cable, and everyone kind of figures it out. And so we're very adultified, very young. And one of the things about being born into a cycle of poverty is there is no way out. It is the system very much kind of entrenches you in it. And the only way out is to be exceptional and take, that's why a lot of athletes, a lot of actors, have started in these hard sort of beginnings, because there really is no way out unless you are on television, in sports, something that is just such a wild leap. That's sometimes the only way to break out of it. School was very expensive, couldn't afford it. I tried.
Well, you mean for college?
For college, yeah.
Because you were accepted into NYU.
Yeah. So grew up very, very poor, was homeless for most of my life. I've told the story a million times, but I'm very proud of it. So I tell it proudly. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It taught me about what's important in life, what I value, what I don't need. So I've literally had nothing. Literally lived in a car, lived in porches during the winter that people would let us, stay in their garages, or like a screened-in porch, or motels.
And you have two siblings?
I have two siblings, two older
So
siblings.
was it all five of you?
All five of us, and a 100-pound pit bull.
Oh, wow.
And we would sleep in the car together sometimes in the
Would
back
you
seat.
feed the pit bull before yourself?
Always.
Of course.
Yes.
What was his or her name?
Mugsy.
Muggsy.
Love of my life.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Kept you warm.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Love is love, right?
It is. You just figure out what you need. And there's really no way up except for up from there. And so,
But I don't think that's to your point, like, yes, exceptional circumstances, but I think exceptional people make it out. And you have to have that inside you. You have to have that drive. You have to have that grit. You have to have whatever that is that makes you special and different. And even your perspective on it. And I'm sure you've gotten there over time, but to think of it as your parents not having the tools, like that's giving them a lot of credit also. That they, how young were they?
they were probably still teens. They were probably
Yeah.
17 when they had us. So
Can't imagine that.
you have to give them grace, and
Yeah, but not everybody can
it's
do
not
that.
easy.
Yeah.
But I think
Realize in that moment as a kid that they were that young and that you kind of had to, or you gain that perspective later?
you gain it way later.
Okay.
When you're in it, you just think like, oh, this is life. Like we all figure out how to pay the bills together.
Right.
Like I was the janitor when I was 14 at a daycare to like help pay the bills, you know? And so that stuff is just second nature. You don't, it's all kind of relative. You know, sometimes I'll like, I sort of sound like Phoebe from Friends, like saying something really traumatic and I'm like laughing and everyone else is so disturbed. But you don't know. It's all relative, right? And so only through perspective and therapy do you go, oh, that was kind of fucked up. Yeah. maybe I shouldn't have had to survive these certain things or had responsibility on my shoulders at such a young age. But when you're going through it, I think it just makes you tougher. And I wouldn't have changed a single thing now because it worked out for me. But yeah, it was not the easiest.
My dad grew up in a trailer park, and he talks about, he told me for Christmas he would get 12 almonds and an orange. And I just wonder, like, are there any moments like that that really stand out to you? Because if you haven't lived through it, I don't think you can understand it at all. Like, you know, moments that you remember specifically thinking like, I got to get out of here, or I need to do this, or, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, stuff that would be really normal. And then you would sort of interact with other kids and be like, oh, okay. So like, you know, not having like winter jackets or coming home and you don't have heat in the house. And so you have to leave the stove on and you leave the oven open so it warms the house. Or you have to boil your water to, you know, take a shower because that's been cut as well, or stealing electricity from neighbors, stuff like that. Very specifically, I wouldn't even have like notebooks in school, so I would like go to like libraries and take like the first blank page out of like dictionaries and stuff and staple those together, and that's what it would be my notebook in school.
Wow.
Like real
And you were a
stuff like
straight A
that.
student
I was
through
top
all
of my
of
class.
this.
Yeah.
which is so remarkable. And how do you think you were able to do that?
I don't know. I think I sort of just knew from an early age, like I have to really be as smart as I can and get scholarships and figure out how to get out of here on my own. And I think from a very young age, I thought it was going to be my responsibility to take care of everyone. And it is.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest in my family, but like that, I kind of knew it was going to be up to me to make sure everyone was okay.
It's, I mean, just so much respect for you.
Thank you.
You know, truly.
Thank you.
You're a remarkable human being.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, it's true. It's true.
But you know, I think there were things that helped me escape, and that was that wrestling was one of them, and comic books and video games and these worlds of the fantastical where I could just escape my reality for a while, and you know, whatever evil was out there, like the good guy always wins, and he can take the fight into his own hands. And so from such a young age, I was like, oh, I want to be a hero in some way. And like, you know, it's all connected.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, why the love of wrestling and the love of superheroes and all that began, because it was genuinely life-saving for me.
Brooklyn Bedding gives you the high-end mattress experience without the sky-high price tag. The whole What's Your Story crew just got their new bedding through Brooklyn Bedding, including the Signature Hybrid and Sedona Elite mattresses. And all of them has said that it's super comfortable. It looks great, and it doesn't cost a fortune. and with their high-quality materials that last a lifetime.
Brooklyn Bedding knows sleep isn't one size fits all. That's why they offer mattresses for everybody, every sleep style, even in hard-to-find sizes. Not sure which mattress is right for you? Just take the Brooklyn Bedding Sleep Quiz and find your perfect match in under 2 minutes.
What sounds so easy? Brooklyn Bedding is one of the few mattress brands endorsed by the American Chiropractic Association for spinal alignment and back health. Plus, they're 100% fiberglass free for peace of mind. They also offer a 120-night comfort trial. Love it, or they'll help you return it or swap it hassle-free. Go to brooklynbedding.com and use my promo code STEPH, STEPH, at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbedding.com and promo code STEPH for 30% off site-wide. Support our show and let them know we sent you after checkout. Who were some of the people and or characters that you wanted to be?
Oh my gosh. Jean Grey. There's this run in X-Men that Chris Claremont wrote, and it's the Dark Phoenix saga. And she sort of like has a battle between like going from like a good guy to a bad guy, and then she sacrifices herself. And I would like recreate it with like my Barbies. So I'm doing this like really dark, like, death scene. Like
Sort of the opposite of Barbie?
Yeah. Someone should have really been checking on me more as a kid.
Did you dye was Barbie's hair blonde or dark at the time?
I would like chop their hair off and like give them makeover. Yeah, it got real dark. But I was expressing myself.
Good, you have to. You have to.
Oh man. But yeah, Jean Grey or like Jill Valentine from Resident Evil. And then in wrestling, it was people like Chyna and Lita and like Molly Holly.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, oh, like these are like strong women. And they show, especially back then, it was even harder than like my generation, where like it was very much like a tiny little bit of opportunities that they had. And
Yes.
to see them be strong amongst men, that was always such a motivator.
Well, and especially Chyna too, right? Like during her time, first ever Intercontinental Champion, when there was no differentiation between the divisions.
Right.
And she could go toe to toe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Just like that was the way they existed in a man's world was like, oh, okay, there might be space where I could show physical strength. And like, I'm sure every therapist is like, oh, you wanted to be physically strong because you felt so weak. Like, yeah, I get it. I'm a statistic. but yeah, it did find empowerment in physical strength.
So how did you develop your strength when you were growing up? Like, were you doing push-ups and sit-ups? And
Oh my gosh, I was the biggest weakling in the world. I had asthma. I couldn't play any sport ever. You
probably were malnourished.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently,
stacked against you there. Like,
Yeah, that was a big thing too. I don't know if a lot of people. So I don't want it to be like a super bummer podcast, but I
No,
think
it's not a bummer. This is your life.
yeah. But there's like levels of poverty that I think people don't understand. Like they hear poor and they think like working class, and there's that. But then there's like dirt poor. Like you get maybe a muffin a day, and like we would live. One of the places we lived was like a Dunkin' Donuts. Was near a Dunkin' Donuts, and they would give us like what they're going to throw out at the end of the night. And so we'd like wait the whole day to eat, and you'd get like a muffin. And I was so like, and that's how you survive. And then
And
like,
you were so excited for that.
I was so
muffin.
excited
Yeah.
for that. And I went to public school, and this is why I like really believe that we should really fund public school lunches. Like that would sometimes be the only
Meal.
that I would get.
Yep.
Was lunch. So that's very important to me, and those are sort of the things that have shaped my beliefs and values. Is seeing what's available for you and how little is out there in sort of resources. When you think about things like EBT and SNAP, like they don't cover hot food, they don't cover diapers, they don't cover certain fancy formulas. There's so much that they don't take care of, and you get like your $150 a month. Like that says feed a family of 5 for a whole month.
Right.
So that was hard to sort of exist in that sort of level of poverty. But I like to talk about it because I think a lot of people don't know how bad it can get for some families who are really just busting their butts too and trying hard. But from that little like malnourished asthmatic child, I grew up in like dangerous neighborhoods, and so a lot of the only way to survive was to get in fights. There's a lot of fist fights in school because that was sort of how you kept each other in check, or you saw who was like you could take advantage of, who you could bully. So if anyone tried, you had to like throw the first punch. You had to like sort of establish that you weren't to
The boundaries,
messed with. Yes.
basically.
It's a different time. I understand that's not the world we live in.
No,
now.
but that's also a very different world than most people live in.
Yeah. And so that was one of the things my parents taught us was like how to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, fight, practice on each other.
Well, and you probably would anyway, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
That's just what siblings do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was something about that, about like taking my strength into my own hands physically. And even though I was
Yes.
so small, like bigger kids would be like afraid of me. Like, oh, you don't fuck with April. You
Yeah.
know? And like I was like, oh, this
That feels
nice.
good.
yeah.
Right? Little cred.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So
And good for your self-esteem
yeah.
when you're struggling like that.
Yeah.
A sense of self.
Definitely. And like, it doesn't make any sense to have been the kid that was in fights all the time and getting in trouble, and the kid that was like doing really well in school. But like that balance, like I felt like it was the only
'cause
way
you were a
to
fighter.
survive. Yeah.
But that, to me, that makes total sense because you were fighting in every possible way you could. Right?
Definitely.
I mean, that's ingrained in you.
Yeah.
You still continue to fight.
Yes.
And now you're fighting for a lot of other people too,
yes.
which is just, again, shines such a light on you and who you are as a person.
Thank you.
And, you were talking about some of your influences and they were all female.
Yeah.
Were there any male influences?
Eddie Guerrero,
Okay.
Roddy Piper, like loved. There was something like so lovable, like lovable scoundrels, and the fact,
Yes,
I think,
yes.
like, the fact that they were different and like scrappy, like there was just something I was very drawn to about.
Like mischievous little boys.
Yes,
Yeah.
troublemakers. Yeah, I love a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That resonates. This message is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon's everyday earbuds have become a go-to gift for the holidays. They sound great, last all day and then some, with 32 hours of battery life, and actually stay comfortable no matter how long you wear them. Over 4 million people already have a pair. So if you've been curious, now's the time to try them out. For Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can get up to 30% off all Raycon products. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself.
The Everyday Earbuds Classic are loaded with upgrades. Active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity so you can pair with 2 devices at once, and an ergonomic fit that actually stays put no matter what you're doing. The new colors are a vibe. I'm into the blush violet. It feels less like just earbuds and more like an accessory that matches me.
Everyday features that live up to the name. Quick charge. 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes of playtime. So when you forget and your earbuds are low on battery, it doesn't take that long to charge for a full hour and a half of battery life. It has an awareness mode, perfect for when I'm walking the dog or running errands. So I stay tuned into what's happening around me without missing a beat. Plus, over 3 million customers already love Raycons, and they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you don't love them, returns are easy, so you have nothing to lose.
All of us here at What's Your Story use Raycons because they are the best.
Raycon's going big for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Everything's up to 30% off. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/WYS to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is, your support of women.
Yeah.
And, you were explaining to me a little bit about
Yeah.
how much that means to you. And I'd love to know whatever you're willing to share
Yeah.
about your perspective. And, I'll just let you talk.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. I think a lot of times for any sort of struggle, either when you go through something that's hard, you either become someone who is like, everyone else needs to feel how hard this was, or you become someone who's like, I don't ever want anyone to feel that pain. And that I just went this way of like, that sucked. I won't ever want to hurt anyone in that way. My goal in everything I do is to help people feel less alone. Because it's the worst feeling in the world, to feel isolated, to feel alone. And so,
Even alone in your own mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I have really bad anxiety. I have really bad social anxiety. It's always been very hard for me to make friends and find my,
Because you want to punch everyone in the face.
yeah. I'm like, are we doing this? We'll throw it out.
You're going to know who's the boss in this relationship.
Take my earrings off. I'm from New Jersey. But yeah, so like I very much grew up as like the kid that didn't have, my table in the cafeteria. So the goal in life is always like, okay, you don't have to fit at somebody else's table. I'm just going to build my own fucking table and everyone's invited.
Yeah.
And so getting into this business and seeing how talented and like just so like bursting with talent all the women were, and how little opportunity there was to show it, was very heartbreaking. But then I got the opportunity. And so much of it felt like luck, but it also felt like being super prepared and like this is my moment. I've been waiting for my whole life. But it did feel a lot like I was the only one, at the time. And I was very grateful for it, but I wanted to feel, I didn't want to be the last.
Right,
I'm happy to be
right.
the first. I don't want to be the last. And so throughout my career after, because of stuff that was difficult, I don't ever want to be someone who makes it harder for someone to come to work. Anytime there was somebody new or.
Because you experienced some of that, right?
Yeah. And, I have I wrote a book and there's not a single.
You should plug the book.
It's called Crazy is My Superpower.
Yes. And it was a #1 bestseller on the New York Times.
New York Times
Liz.
bestseller. Big deal. But I didn't name anyone when I talked about like bad stories, because I feel like when we know better, like we do better, and who we are when we're younger is probably not representative of who we're supposed to become. But I did have like some hard sort of isolating experiences. And I know I'm not like the easiest person to make friends with. Like I'm sure, I can't like say it was anyone, like just everyone else's fault. But like I did feel very alone in my career. And it was the people who were so kind to me. I put those stories in the book because I was like, those are the moments I'll remember forever.
Right.
When like Beth Phoenix saw that I did 4 matches in one night because I was like a utility man in the beginning.
Right.
And she pulled me and brought me to talent relations. And she was like, she's done 4 matches. I hope you guys are paying attention. Like you're working her, but also look how good she is. And she was like champion. And I was like,
That's awesome.
whoa,
Yeah.
And then even during like NXT season 3, when we were like doing limbo contests and chocolate eating contests.
Yeah, but when NXT was different.
Yeah, NXT was,
It was not its own.
it was a web show.
Yes.
And it was like a humiliation ritual for these young girls who, we didn't have time to get like hair and makeup.
Different than the
and-
Diva Search.
Yeah, it was very different. It was sort of like a fan voted competition, and all the competitions were like embarrassing.
Goofy.
And and like the announcers would just like make fun of us, and we were just felt so being down. And I remember like Layla was like, "Here, put your stuff near my stuff. Oh, hey, maybe you should wear a better dress than that." Like she would like help me like fix my bra, like because my dress was from like Burlington Coat Factory.
Right.
Like I didn't know how to
Yeah.
dress. I still don't know how to dress, guys. But like,
You set
Didn't get
the
any
tone
better.
though. You own it. Like
Yeah.
this is.
but like I just
You have
I
people
stopped
actually imitating how
Thank
you
you.
dress. Yes.
trying. But stuff like that, the kind moments are the ones
Yeah.
I want to like share with the world and spotlight, and the not so kind moments are the ones that like take your spirit away and just I never wanted to be someone who perpetuated that.
Yeah.
And so I would do everyone's tryout match. And I would try and make sure that everyone who was brand new like felt welcome. And so now to see this new generation and see them, they're so sweet to each other in the locker room. They're so kind and like they're friends and they mean it. I want to be like mama to them and be like, what do you need? Like, how do I protect you? How do I put you in a bubble forever?
That's so great, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and it has evolved so much.
Yeah.
And I was never in the locker room per se, right? So I didn't know what it was really like, you know? But I'm so grateful for where it is now,
Yeah.
you know, and for people like you who have paved the way and been the example, you know, and paying it back, you know, for Beth and Layla and, you know, everyone who was kind to you. I love that you're highlighting the kind moments.
Oh my gosh. Those are the ones that stick in my head like 15 years later. Like, oh my God.
They mean it means the world.
Yeah,
right. Just the
definitely.
little hand up or the little recognition. You know, like just someone who's got your back.
Yeah. Just
You
makes
know,
you feel less alone.
It's your Maya quote.
Yeah.
People won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. She always quotes it, but it's exactly what you're like. These few kind moments are what I took with me.
It's so, so true. And anytime I get it's like, I mean, Maria, she came to FCW and was like, I'll train with you. Cause like, it just like, and then when I went on the road, she was like, oh, I trained with her. And like, I was like, somebody knows me on the road. Like, it's just so nice. Cause it's intimidating when you first come on the road and you're by yourself. And then I remember, I think I was like, I hadn't met Mickey ever, but I was an indie girl. And back then there was not a lot of indie wrestlers that came into the business. And I guess she knew that. And I like was on the road by myself, like a SmackDown, like terrified. And she was like, hi, and came up and gave me the biggest hug in front of everyone. Just kind of almost to be like,
Welcoming.
yeah,
Yeah.
like leave her alone.
Yeah.
You know?
I've got her.
And I will never forget like how safe that made me feel. And I didn't know her and she didn't need to do that. And I think I like recently like DM'd her to like tell her that. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but it meant everything. So
I hope she listens to this too.
Oh my
and
God.
hears you say that.
like just shit like that. It's like you never know what somebody needs or is going through. So like a tiny bit of kindness can like literally stick with someone for like 20 years.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that. Right? Just giving someone a hug
Yeah.
on a scary day or a down day
Yeah.
or whatever that is.
Because I was
you
never
know?
open with people about my mental health. So nobody knew like why I was so quiet and why I was just like kind of like, you know, like
Right.
I have to process. I have to like, you know, I
Because there's more to it than just how you grew up
yeah,
and you know the things you had to go through and what I'm sure you've witnessed as well. But then you also had additional challenges that nobody knew about.
yeah. I live with bipolar disorder. I have been taught. I once did a speech. I do keynote speeches for mental health organizations across the country, and once did a speech and I said I am bipolar in it. And afterwards, I was speaking to all the medical professionals, and one of them came over and held my hand, and she goes, "You have bipolar. You're not bipolar." And I was like, "Just because it's a part of me. It's not all of me.
It doesn't define you.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
ever since then, I've been like, I live with bipolar disorder. It's a piece of me. It's not all of me. But it is something that runs in my family. And we didn't know it, that my mother was struggling with it. And so that answered a lot of questions of like her behavior growing up and you know, why things were the way they were. But then it is often triggered and worsened by high pressure situations, high stress.
So you went right into that fire.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So I just was really figuring out, I mean, from like 19 years old to like 24 was sort of the coming into wrestling and going, being shot, strapped to a rocket.
Right.
I went to NYU for 6 months. I couldn't afford it. I had to leave. And I said, my dream was, I loved writing. I went there for film and television production. Couldn't afford to do it, but I also loved wrestling. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go wrestle now then. And started the indie circuit, got signed by WWE eventually, like 2 years into my indie run. And I was still dealing with like this initial diagnosis, and I had just gotten.
When were you diagnosed?
When I was 19 years old, I believe.
Okay.
And then I was signed when I was like 21.
Okay.
So it was just, I didn't have money
Also
for
new.
medicine.
Yeah.
I didn't have money for therapy. So I was just given this sort of bomb to like,
Here you go.
good luck.
Yeah, and it wasn't talked about nearly as much. So there wasn't as much information available.
Not at all. And there was so much shame and there was so much,
Stigma.
yes, where
Yeah.
I thought it could cost me my job if people found out about it. And so I never told anyone. And I remember one person had like sort of an inkling, and that was Caitlin. Because I think we've talked about this story before on her podcast, but we were like going to the gym or something, and I was like, I can't leave the car, and I just like sat in the car and like cried while she went out into the gym and like worked out. She's like, "You good?" when she came back. But it was one of those things you had to like sort of suffer in silence and figure out. And so dealing with like, the high pressure of like being on television and
It brought it all
to
a head, so to speak.
it was a lot all at once for a young person to sort of figure out. And so I really started taking care of it once I retired and started getting on like the right treatment, the right medication, the right plan for me.
Because you were
Everyone's
also
different.
misdiagnosed.
I was misdiagnosed with depression,
Yeah.
which can be very dangerous because if you need bipolar medication, medicine for depression sends you into like an even worse depression, and it can actually increase suicidal ideation. So it can be really dangerous. And so that's what happened to me. Almost lost my life and a few times, and had to really fight to get the right package, the right treatment, the right course that worked for me. And then once I felt like I had perspective on it, and I was like, okay, I feel like the worst days might be behind me. I was wrong. But then I decided to talk about it because, again, like even if like I lost everything and if no one ever wanted to hire me again, at least I
stood up
could
for
let
what you
somebody
believed
feel
in.
less
Yeah.
alone. Yeah.
And you were willing to share the most vulnerable side of you.
It was scary.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Yeah. It came out as bipolar in my book, and
That was the first time?
that was the first time.
Okay.
But the week before my book came out, I put like a post on my website about it because I didn't want it to be like a surprise, like you're gonna read a mental health book, it's gonna get dark. So I wrote this thing on my website, and I swear to God, I got my first gray hair.
Really?
I was so stressed. It was like alfalfa like popped out of my head, and it was just I was so stressed about like I thought the world was gonna like make fun of me and like shun me. And it was the scariest
And you
thing.
did it anyway.
I did it anyway, but the world surprises you, and they were so loving, and so they embraced it. And it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot that's like correlated with feeling like outcast and feeling like you don't belong that very much dovetails into like the mental health community. And so in wrestling, I had built this like bond with the fans where they were so supportive and loyal and like had my back. And it wasn't just because of me, it was because of the message. The mission statement was like, weirdos for the win. Like that you being different is what's special about you, and like embrace that thing. And we can create our own group. We don't have to fit in anywhere. And that almost like made this like connection for life. Where like I've been talking to the same fans for like 15 years. Like they've been with me, ride or die. But then I feel like that bond got really deepened talking about mental health because I feel like we were all hiding it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times isolation and loneliness can trigger mental health symptoms. Or if you are dealing with a mental illness, you do isolate yourself and you do feel different. You do feel alone. So they are so interwoven. So adding that to sort of the tribe made people feel seen. And I'd never felt a connection like that since I started, doing speeches and advocating for mental health.
I bet you helped so many people.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
hope
so many
so.
people struggle. So I struggle. I mean, so many people struggle. I think it's human, and of course there's varying levels of it, but it's so human to beat yourself up. It's so human to get inside your own head, and that spiral can be steep and deep. And you talking about it probably made people who were feeling the same way feel okay about themselves and feel like maybe I could, talk about myself too. Maybe I need help.
Right.
And I'd love to know from your perspective, for anybody who's listening or watching who's maybe feeling that way right now, how can they get help? Like how do they do that?
So a lot of times people will say the first step is asking for help. And what I have learned from my experience is that if you do have resources, that is wonderful. Go ask for help. But a lot of times you're in that situation where you're struggling because you don't have anyone to ask for help. So like you almost feel more isolated when someone's like, just go to like an adult you trust. Maybe you don't have anyone you trust. So I'd like to first and foremost tell people you can do it on your own. You can educate yourself. You can have empathy for yourself. Give yourself the grace of like, a lot of people are dealing with this. If it's not you, it's someone you love. Like it's like 1 in 3 people deal with like some form of mental struggle. So it's very common.
1 in 3.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
like no shame.
Yeah.
And it takes about 10 years for people to go from your symptom onset to a diagnosis. So you have 10 years of just questions and being like, what's
Do
happening
you
to
think
me?
your condition continues to evolve and that's why it's tricky? Or do people not ask the right questions? Or
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So a lot of times there is sort of like, what's the easy diagnosis? Or like people will think they're exhausted, or they'll think they're just an insomniac, or they'll think they're maybe just depressed. But there's so many conditions that have like overlapping symptoms. So it's really hard. Sometimes you have to go multiple times to get the correct diagnosis. Sometimes you have to be diagnosed wrong, unfortunately. But I always say start with yourself, educate yourself. You can go to like nonprofit organizations, have like wonderful websites. Like NAMI.org is one that I think that helps everybody. It's
And how
very
do you spell
general.
that?
NAMI.org. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'm an advocate for them. I do speeches for them. They're wonderful. They're very generalized. Then there's like specialized resources. So there's, Latinx therapy. There's so many cultural specifications of like nonprofit organizations that.
and why is that important?
So there's a lot of barriers to treatment for communities of color. We, in general, our culture does not talk about our feelings as much. We also have a shame about sharing any struggle outside of the family. You don't ask anyone for help. You keep it. You don't air our dirty laundry,
Right.
essentially. And then let's say there's a lot of like healthcare deserts. There's a lot of Medicaid lacking of resources. There's a lot of distrust in the medical community that is fairly earned from our cultures being experimented on and without their knowledge and not being believed when it comes to our pain. There's high maternal mortality rate because brown and black women aren't believed when they say that they're in pain when they go to deliver a baby. So there's this like really kind of earned distrust in the medical field and that bias. But then let's say you go through these hurdles and you go to therapy, 86% of providers are white. And so there's this lack of cultural competence. So for example, if they don't know the language or they don't understand the way we sort of like tuck our emotions in, you could go in, you could say, I'm not sleeping. And a doctor will be like, okay, you're an insomniac. Here's the sleeping pill. But really you're depressed and that's why you're not sleeping. And our culture tends to, especially because of the language barrier, explain the somatic symptoms. So they'll say, I'm exhausted. I'm not sleeping. I have headaches. I don't have energy. And instead of really explaining that deep pain.
Right.
And so
And you might not know how to explain
you
it.
might not know how to
Right.
explain. And then
And
all
then when
the
you
way,
have someone who's ignorant,
yes,
they don't know how to pull it out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because maybe it works for 90% of their other patients. They'll open up on their own. But then we're also just not represented in clinical trials and research. So the system itself is not prepared for us in any way. So it's sort of a miracle to even get into therapy in the first place. And you might not find the right provider. So since it's such an uphill battle, I always encourage people to look for specialized resources for your community. The JED Foundation is an amazing one for LGBTQIA plus youth. Represent. That's very specialized care. And right now, one of the things I was really proud to be a part of was like sort of the rally to get 988 instated. It used to be a really long, like 1-800 number. They just lost a lot of funding, which is really heartbreaking for their like specialized services. Those specialized services got 1 million calls last year, and now they don't exist. So where do those 1 million people call now when they have suicide ideation? It really breaks my heart.
Where can they call? Just some of these that.
988 is what we got right now. There might not be specialized services,
So
but
I don't
people
know
are
anything
fighting.
about 988.
So 988 is the suicide lifeline. It used to be a
Okay.
1-800 number, and it was like really hard to get people to like remember the whole thing. So there was like this sort of campaign for maybe like 5 or 6 years of trying to get sort of a 911 equivalent.
Okay.
And it's different in every single state. There's not like a curriculum that every single state is like has agreed on. So they're all sort of different depending on where you live. But it is they're trained to sort of listen to you if you are dealing with suicide ideation, call you help if you need it, but be not force that upon you. It's very non-judgmental, and it is a lifeline for a lot of people.
Who are in maybe a crisis at that moment.
Yes,
Right.
and they used to have specialized care for like the LGBT community, and that got cut recently. And so now it's like, well, where do these 1 million people go? We're trying to fight and get them more resources and get them. But right now, I would say look for the most amazing, like Trevor Project. There's nonprofit organizations that are like fighting so hard. Human Rights Campaign, they did this shirt. There are organizations fighting for you. We just have to like kind of join together and fight a little harder.
And Joe, can we please put these links in the episode? Great. Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
of course, because I don't want someone listening and like trying to write it down and
Yeah.
then like, miss it. And what was that? And
Of course. Well, this in particular is for the Trans Lifeline. That's another one that's very specialized. And so it's Trans Awareness Week. So. But yeah, so that is my first suggestion always, is to educate yourself. Know that you can find tools online, privately, discreetly. You can call these numbers. You can figure out what providers maybe are in your area that take your insurance. But that's like another step, right? It's really
right.
expensive.
And what if you don't have insurance?
If you don't have insurance, and sometimes even if you do have insurance, the people who will take your insurance will only take you once every 6 months. Like you have to wait 6 months. But if you're in a crisis today,
Right, you
Yeah.
need help immediately.
That's why I was thinking,
Yes.
like, if you don't have access to the internet or
exactly. So a lot of times you depend on these nonprofit organizations who are providing services for free. But if you are able to, educate yourself, give yourself a little bit of grace, get to help eventually talk to other people, I would always say like try and create some form of community, whether it is a counselor or a teacher. It doesn't have to be your parents. If it's your parents, amazing. But someone who you feel is responsible, who can maybe see those different changes in you. And one of the things I always say to people that has really helped me is when you hear or feel that sort of darkness, that negative voice, I say to name it.
Oh, that's so
It
interesting.
very much helps because a lot of times with like depression and suicide ideation, you think it's you thinking these things, that there's only one way out, that, you're not worth anything. And I have named her Jean because Jeanette's my middle name. And every time I hear her, I'm like, you bitch.
Shut up, Jean.
Yeah, Jean is a liar.
Yeah.
And you have to know that it's not you. It is some other piece of you that doesn't want the best for you. And it's a liar. And it's going to go away eventually. So you sort of have to just name it, know it's not you, put it to the side, and try and keep it in
So
check.
you don't address it. You put it to the side.
She's there. I know she's
Yeah.
there, but she's not me. Like,
Yeah.
she's not going to sit here or here and tell
And
me
that's
what
a
I am.
conscious thought to
Yeah.
keep her on the side.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
so every time I sort of, my husband and I joke about like my dark days. If I wake up and it's a dark day, Jean's being a real bitch today. And we have to sort of keep her in check. So that's what I always say is that helps you recognize that you're starting in sort of those spirals or those patterns. But
So calling it out is helpful to prevent the spiral.
Definitely. I think so. And I just wish people knew when you're in those moments, it is so all encompassing. It really feels like there is no way out. It feels there are times when it can feel like an actual death. It can feel like grieving. And you're so far deep in this hole. And there is a way out. And you do come out on the other side eventually. And you see it with such a perspective where you're like, whoa, that was a close one. And I just like wish I could tell everyone in the world who's like going through it, like there is a way out. You just literally have to take it one day by the next day and fake it sometimes. Fake like I feel better and like take a shower and that's your accomplishment for the day. Wonderful. Brush your teeth. Amazing. Like put on a bra. What?
Because personal hygiene can take a backseat, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
Like there were days when literally like putting on pants that weren't pajamas was like such an accomplishment for me. And like give yourself credit for the tiny bits that you can do. But yeah, I wish everyone could get therapy and afford.
Well, and how important
medicine.
is the credit, right? And like you talked about having empathy for yourself. And I think that, and I love the message that you can do it yourself. And it's not just about a trusted adult. Because I've given many speeches and talking points, and that's always like the first one they want you to
Right.
say is go find a trusted adult, which I'm not saying is wrong. But to your point, there are a lot of people who don't have adults they can trust. And knowing that you have it within you, you know, is really important.
Yeah,
And that you need help,
definitely.
you know, but that you can start with yourself. And how do you, when you're in such a dark, lonely place, how can you have empathy for yourself?
The dedication of my book was actually to every girl who needs a hero and doesn't yet realize that she will save herself.
That she's her own hero.
Yeah, because
Like you.
yeah, you sort of have to be in this world, and a little bit of that comes from like a sort of a hard, jaded exterior of like all you got is you, baby. But I also think there's something quite wonderful about that because love has to start here. There's no person in the world that's going to complete you. There's no like accomplishment that you're going to get that then I'll be happy once I do this. Like that is sprinkles on the cupcake, I always say. Like you have to be the whole cupcake. You have to love yourself first. And so that starts with like giving yourself grace and forgiveness. And sounds so ridiculous, but when I was like at my absolute worst depression, which was not too long ago, it was maybe like 5 or something years ago, I had a really bad depressive cycle that I've talked about before, but it got pretty dangerous. And it felt like I died and was reborn. And as I was like, because it was such a deep hole, and as I was coming out of it, I just learned to love myself so deeply because I felt empathy for this person who felt so weak and felt alone. And I would like be like, I'm gonna hug you. And, like, I got you, babe. Like
No shame in hugging yourself, by the way.
Yeah, man.
right?
Like
Yeah.
that would help me. And I would
Yeah.
literally, be like, I have my back and I can accomplish anything in this world. Like if I can't kill me, nothing can. And
Wow.
and I just I knew.
Is this one of those moments where you say something that's like very traumatic and you laugh about it and everyone else in the room is like, damn.
That quote, the quote just like took my breath away.
I don't know. I just really felt like I learned to love myself first, and everything else
you
was
had
extra.
to go. I mean, that was not that long ago.
No, and it was like that's the thing with
It's a process.
It is a
right?
process. The journey is never linear, and so a lot of times people like almost like approach it with me as if like I'm healed. There is no healing. Like you have to continue to fight every single day and stay on top of it. And there are things that you can't control that are just going to throw your mood to a different level. And with bipolar disorder, you cycle, and sometimes you really can't help it if you're on a manic cycle or a depressive cycle. So I couldn't help it. It just took me out, and there was a lot happening that helped throw me into it, but I got myself out. And the second I decided to forgive myself and be kind to myself and sort of take it day by day and say, okay, what are you capable of today? the world cracked open for me. And I feel like that's happened a few times in my life. But that really was when like my writing career took off and all these like dreams that I felt like I manifested came true.
And what are some of the projects that you worked on coming out of that you're so proud of?
Oh my gosh. So I wrote my first movie. It was an action movie that was like in the top 3 on Netflix for like a month. And then
And what's it called?
it's called Blade of the 47 Ronin. And it was like female samurais. It was like this badass chick movie. I like to
And no interest to star in it?
Well, I do that separately. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've gotten to act in movies and TV shows and they're always like butt
Please
kicking.
plug away.
I'm in Sacramento with Kristen Stewart and Michael Cera, and that's on Hulu. I did Heels, which is on Netflix now. I just did a short film called Like the Tide, and I started a production company called Scrappy Art Productions. And the idea behind that was like me and my writing partner are so everything we have, we had to really fight and scrap for ourselves. And her and I are 2 Latinas that like didn't see ourselves on television, and we would have to be
You
like,
mean as examples?
yeah, as examples. Like as kids, it'd be like, okay, well, I guess that one's brunette, so that's me, I guess. But like, you know, they weren't our culture. They didn't
Right.
represent us in any way. But you took what you could get back in the day, and we didn't realize that we just became that for ourselves. You know, if we couldn't
You could
see
be-
it, we could be
yeah.
it. And so we literally just put ourselves on television.
Awesome.
And so when we realized we had the same goals of like, now let's create more roles for the next generation, we teamed up and created this production company. We are developing a TV show. We just wrote our second feature. I think I have permission to say it.
Yeah, I'm like, what can you talk about?
So as another example, I think this is the first time anyone's hearing this. So
Oh,
we're breaking
big
news.
deal. Breaking
Yes.
news. Here we
Breaking
are.
news.
Another example of like manifestation, one of my favorite, I love anime so much. And so one of my favorite companies growing up was Toei. They did Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and like these things that raised me. And so we are writing a movie for Toei Animation.
Wow.
I think that's all I can say.
Okay.
But just such a dream come true to like
Right?
be in their office and see like all Dragon Ball Z like figures
Yeah,
everywhere.
I bet you must have walked in and just
Lost
geeked out.
my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, can I move in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. We produced our first short film that made it to Tribeca Film Festival. Wow. And
what was that about?
so that is called, so my gift in this world is branding. And
Wait, that's weird.
Funny.
I mean, I hear my merch does really well. You know, I've got a gift for this.
It does, yes.
So I everything in our company I've always come up with like the titles for some reason it just like hits me.
Right.
And so this movie is about a 40-year-old woman who has her first orgasm.
Wow.
And she comes from this very religious Latino family, and so it's like very much unlearning repression and stopping the cycle of putting everyone before yourself. And so it's called Amy Comes First.
Ooh, I love this.
phenomenal.
I love this.
Thank you. So we're now trying to do the feature version.
And does she have her first orgasm by herself or with a partner?
well, we're gonna have to see
Okay.
the feature and find out.
We will be tuning in.
But it really is about self-care.
Yeah. And the importance of self-care.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
is.
Yes. And that it's not taboo.
Yes. And so it's really just like trying to tell these like underdog sort of cultural stories, but from a universal lens. Like their stories don't just have to be like Latinx stories. It
Right.
doesn't have to just be
But they're
our trauma.
rooted in the Latinx culture.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
perspective is so singular that's like what does this universal story feel like when you come from this kind of family, when you come from this sort of world? And so that's sort of the goal all the time, is making underdogs the stars of their own stories. I just wrote my first original feature by myself. I'm so excited. I might make it a comic book first, but it's a horror movie, and it's like this mental health horror story.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Like,
It is my child. So hopefully I can, throw that out into the world soon.
okay. Do you have a title for that one, or are you too early to share anything?
I might not be able to share it, but
Okay,
I will share
okay.
it soon.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so that's like what we're working on now, is a bunch of film, TV, lots of books. Our first original book just came out called Day of the Dead Girl. And it's like a Latina Mulder and Scully essentially
Yeah.
from the X-Files.
That's cool.
Except they're mom and daughter, so it's a
Oh,
lot of that
that's
tension.
cool.
So we just
Oh, and your perspective of mother-daughter.
Yes. It's fraught. But so just a lot of different fun stories and representing these like little pockets of the world that I feel like aren't a light isn't shown on them, and sort of showing the joy of our culture and how we're just American like everybody else. We just have like a different perspective. Just like our moms maybe like take off their chancla, you know, like and threaten you with it. And like, but you know, and
Mine
so,
had a flip-flop.
there you go. See?
Yeah.
We're the same. So that's sort of what we're working on now. And I'm just so proud of it. And it was interesting to be able to like dovetail that into wrestling. The first television show I produced was an all women's wrestling show. So it was like everything kind of comes together. The first acting job I did was a wrestling show, you know? So
Right?
to me,
It's funny how it all
it needs
pieces
to
together.
You have to, like, every piece of your story creates you, and I'm so proud of what I built here and the fans that have stood by me, who go to medical conferences just to like hear my speeches and like wearing
That's
wrestling
amazing, really.
merch. Yeah, like,
I suppose it actually doesn't surprise me because I do think we have the most amazing fans in the world. And if they identify with you and relate to you, I mean, they're your tribe for life.
genuinely.
Yes.
And it you know, I feel like I was built to take on their stories. And so when I do signings and they come up to me and they tell me their mental health journey, sometimes it's the first time they're saying it out loud.
Wow.
And I feel like I was built in this world to do that, to like absorb it and be like, yes, take it off your shoulders, give it to me. And it is the most meaningful thing I could ever do in this world. And like if I was done tomorrow, I'd be like, yep, I did it, because that is this connection that it felt like that was my purpose in the world, was to help people feel less alone. But I hope they know that in like my hard times, they have helped me feel less alone, because I feel weird and alone and isolated and, you know, hopeless sometimes. And then you see these people who you've affected and who root for you still.
In every way.
Yeah. And it really
To the point where
heals you.
you came back.
Yeah.
And you, by the way, I didn't miss a beat.
Thank you.
Like, amazing. And you cut this promo
Oh my God.
and you talked a little bit about your journey.
Yeah.
And the crowd actually started chanting therapy.
In what world?
Yeah, only WWE.
That was like a genuine reaction of like being stunned. I had heard like one person started chanting it, and then a few people around him started chanting therapy. And I thought it was so funny. And one of the things about getting more like performance practice is I'm like very comfortable. I think I've always been pretty comfortable on the mic because I can just turn into a different person. But now I'm especially just like kind of in the moment more, I think, than ever. Like, what's my, next line? And so I heard it and I was like, I have to respond to this. And was joking, like these three guys were chanting therapy. And then everyone started doing it and my mind exploded. Because I think, if you have like a sort of a judgmental idea of what you think like wrestling crowds could be, you don't think they're like in touch with their emotions. And so open-minded and empathetic like that to chant for therapy. And it was just this like my worlds came together. And like now, like I just did a signing and people had like therapy is cool merch and like
Really?
Yeah, and like they made it themselves. And, like,
Really?
and I've had so many people from that moment tell me that they decided to start therapy because of that segment. And I was just like,
Wow.
what do we do, you guys? Like, this is the coolest thing in the world to like combine these two things that mean everything to me. But I hope those fans know that like they are the reason I came back. It took me a really long time to be comfortable doing signings because once I retired, I was like, I'm going to be behind the camera forever now. Like I was just like attention was like not
what you wanted.
No, like
At that
really,
time.
No, I mean it's a little hard for me still. Like it messes with my anxiety, where I have to like kind of like have a process of like a cool down and like not look at like the internet and it's just like it's just like the way I'm wired now. But I know how to work it. So signings were something I was doing for a long time. And I did one signing maybe like a year or something ago, and I was like, I'll be there for 2 hours. 7 hours.
7.
Because I was like, I'm going
Because
to
you
take
stayed
everyone
for
who shows up.
everybody.
Yeah.
There must have been a lot of people.
Wow.
It was hundreds and hundreds of people. And I was like, it's been 10 years, you guys. Like, you are still willing to wait in like a 7-hour line for me. And it just like touched me so deeply. And then I started doing signings for the comic book that we had put out. And it was the same thing in California and Chicago and New York. And I was just like, shit. Like, there's like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was, I could give something to this group of people who had stuck by me for so long. So that's when the wheels started like, okay, maybe
Do you
it's time.
feel like this group of fans are a part of your community?
Yes, 100%. I mean, like, even like some in particular, like I know their names, I know their stories. I see them at every signing, I see them at shows, and it's cool to like see them grow up.
Yeah,
I call myself
literally.
like stepmama to them. I raised you.
There was one you shared. I think someone created like a book for you.
Yes, I have it with me. Her name's Jessica. She like put together this like a bunch of fan messages through Twitter, and like people who like couldn't make it to the signing all over the world like wrote like really like encouraging like messages to me, and it's like this beautiful like scrapbook, and it's giant, and it's such hard work went into
That
it.
she made. Wow.
Yeah, and I always keep all the letters, and I read all the letters because like, and my first signing was Lita, and I wrote her a letter, and I'm sure it was like the most embarrassing thing in the world, but like if she had been mean or like dismissive or it just anything, if she was not anything but like warm and wonderful, who knows what weird direction I would have went in life.
Right.
Maybe I would have hated wrestling and never done it. So like to me, oh my God, no, I'll cry. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Like, so that little girl's starving. She is like probably living in a motel, you know what I mean? And like, she doesn't know that, but she's so kind to me. And she held the letter and she's like, I will read this. And then she gave me her marker, and I kept that marker for years and years and years. I probably lost it in a move because
have you talked to her?
I
about
showed her the
this?
video.
And what did she say?
She's like, I've seen that. Like somebody sent it to her on Twitter. This is back in the day. Yeah, it was. She didn't know what the kid was going through, you know, and so
well, like you said before, you never know what someone else is going
You
through.
don't.
You just don't.
And so that was like a pivotal moment. God, every like sliding doors. Who knows what would have happened if that didn't go that way, and I didn't feel
Right.
like seen. And so now when I do like these signings, it's like you've given me your whole day. You've traveled here. You're waiting in line for 7 hours. Like, and I only get these like 2 minutes with you. They're gonna be the best fucking 2 minutes in the world. You know, like we're gonna become best friends. I'm gonna know your middle name
In those 2 minutes.
Yes, and so it just they're so meaningful to me, and I feel like we have
Because
a
you
good time.
remember what it's like to be in line.
Yes, definitely. It means a lot. It could really change things. So I hope they know that they're seen. I see them. I'm one of them, and I've kind of always felt that way. I'm just like a fan that snuck onto television.
Snuck on. Somehow that is not how I would describe your journey. Oh my God, your fighter mentality is, I mean, it has brought you to where you are.
Thank you.
I mean, and for you to be willing to be so raw and so vulnerable and so real. I mean, it truly, I think the reason you have the fan base that you have is because of who you are.
Thank you.
And who you're willing to, what you're willing to share. I mean, it's so easy to hide.
Right.
It's so easy to be someone else, you know, and to, especially when you're on television, to play a
Right.
persona, you know, and to not share those things. And that's fine for the people that don't want to share. But if you have something that so many people are going through and you can give them that hope. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is so special about our business. And I've heard a couple of people articulate it this way, but that it is hope.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because going back to the women's evolution, we were in Abu Dhabi for 6 years and our women were not allowed to perform.
Whoa.
It took 6 years. And then, like roughly, give or take. And then it was one match where our women were allowed and they had to change, you know, what they wore. It had to cover their heads were the only thing that was exposed. And during the match, a chant broke out, "This is hope."
Whoa.
which is not a typical WWE chant, as you know. And the people in the audience will never be the same after being a part of something like that. And that was such a huge spark, you know, for what was to come. But I think hope is, I mean, I've even heard of studies, you know, Make-A-Wish Foundation did a huge study on hope. And if you can give kids who are struggling that, I know I'm going to meet AJ Lee, I know I'm going to, you know, do whatever it is, that hope keeps them hanging on, and it gives them an opportunity to feel better.
Right.
You know, and how would you describe the importance of hope in your life?
That's a really good way to put it. I've heard that the key to happiness is having something to look forward to. And sometimes it could be so simple. And sometimes when you're depressed, it could really be like, I made a doctor's appointment on this day. I'm going to the OBGYN, but hey, it's a thing in my calendar. You know, like
Right.
So just sometimes it's just little like plans, or even if you give yourself like tiny goals, like I'm going to finish this book by this day, or I'm gonna, if you're a writer, I'm gonna write this thing by this contest deadline. Sometimes those are the only things in our control, is that something ahead of us to look forward to. Those are like steps you can implement every single day that I still do. When you feel a little bit untethered, it's very grounding to be like, here's my plan. I'm going to do this in 1 month. I also think routine helps people a lot. Just if you're looking for anything to make you feel better, I wake up at the same time. I, get my day started at the same time, eat the same thing. I have the same, sort of workout schedule. Stuff like that really helps people be grounded in their mental health.
So goal setting.
Turning
Turning
for sure.
hope into actual goals.
Yeah, that is really, so it feels tangible, and it feels, you feel accomplished when you can get that little thing done. But bigger picture, I mean, hope is the only thing I had growing up, and stories, comic books and video games and pro wrestling were these, the good guy could win sometimes, and, you can fight and be knocked down. And the really interesting thing is like the formula for a match is sort of the same structure as a script.
Yep.
It's very, very
It's a story.
similar. Yes. It's kind of the same dips and dives. And that is so cool to me because it's this universal storytelling technique that like gets your heart and like makes you root for someone. And so wrestling was this thing that I felt like I could do that one day. I could be the hero of my own story. And so there were times when that was kind of all I had, was this hope for the future.
So how did you get so good at wrestling?
Oh my God, thank you. It is the only thing I can do athletically. If you try to throw a ball at me, I'll just like a cat and some yarn. It's bad. I am not athletic at all. I think I'm just stubborn. Also not naturally good at school. I just like forced myself to be.
Well, I don't know. You have to be very smart. I mean, I think
you.
like, yes, it's determination, but you have to have the ability. And I would argue that you're not athletic.
I know, that's what I was going to say. I haven't seen you
I mean,
feel like that.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, right? Maybe certain sports, but like,
just wrestling is the only skill.
but that's a pretty big
physically.
skill.
It's a
I
very
mean,
big,
I think.
very
my
big skill.
gosh.
And you look awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I mean, we were talking
I was going to
before.
ask a question.
Go ahead.
As you were going through your daily routine,
Yeah.
what is the ab routine?
oh my gosh.
Please.
Because the abs are
they're-
ridiculous, and they
they-
always have been.
I mean,
yeah.
Thank you. It's another thing that's like sort of kind of dovetails into the whole like being kind to yourself sort of thesis is I used to do really, really heavy like Olympic lifting, and my body, just especially at the end of my career, was like very much falling apart, and it just was not working for me. And when I went through a really bad depression, like I gained a lot of weight and didn't know how to like get my body back. And I just said, oh, I don't need my body back. Let me just like take care of myself. What can I do today? What can I do that's like kind to myself? And I changed my workout to be shorter. I do high intensity interval training because it's fun and like my heart rate gets up, and I eat intuitively. I eat whatever I want, but like I'm not like binging. In certain depressions, I would like binge eat, and
I'm a binger.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's a form of masochism sometimes.
no, it
when you're
is.
sad.
I know. I'm aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
It's very hard to break out of it too, because
Yeah.
then once you start, you're like, well, I already
That's
started.
the whole thing. Well, I
Finish
already
the bag.
mine as well.
Yes. And so that was a thing. Like, I can't be super constrained. I can't be like, I'm on this diet, because then I'll just fall off in the complete opposite direction. So it was really about being like kind to me. What can I do with the injuries I have, with the body I have, with the time I have? Like, how can I do my job that asks me to sit at a computer for 8 hours a day and like squeeze in a workout? So I started doing high intensity interval training. I do it maybe 4 or 5 times a week. I mostly just use dumbbells and a yoga mat. And like that changed the composition of my body insanely. Just like, and I think it is because I'm being kind to myself, which sounds like super hippy dippy, but like it works. Food shouldn't be a prize. It shouldn't be something you have to earn. I feel like it's a human right
Or a
to
reward.
eat food. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I never call them cheat days. They're treat days.
Oh, that's really
it's
that's
positive
interesting. Yeah.
affirmation. I hate negative connotations with words. I think your voice is the strongest voice you're going to hear. So be kind to yourself. Say nice things to yourself. And what's the positive spin on
And
on
if
everything?
you find yourself like looking in the mirror and picking yourself apart,
Yeah.
like be conscious of it and don't like actively change your mind
Right.
and start to think about positive things.
Definitely, because that you have power over your own mind.
Right.
I really do remember in my darkest time being like, okay, I will feel better. I am happy today, and like I just like faked it until I made it. Like it would do that every day until I got myself like out and was able to then take like the actual steps I needed to do with like my therapist and be on the right medication and the right routine. And it's different for everyone.
Sure.
There's no like prescriptive advice across the board, but you do have to like dabble and like see what works for you.
And know that you control your own mind.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, I think that the power of self, right? And that your mind can spin out.
Yeah.
And it does happen to all of us, varying degrees.
Yeah.
But that you can recognize it. Like, how important is it to recognize it in the moment and catch it?
Yeah. I mean, it can spiral out of control if you don't. So that is where it really helps me to name it something else.
Right, right.
Like, that is the bad guy who wants terrible things for me. Like, what are the good things that I can like see in myself and the grace I can give myself, and how I can get myself out of this. And sometimes like maybe wallow a day. Sometimes it feels good. A good cry. Let it out. It's
Crying,
fine.
yes. Crying makes you stronger.
Yeah, why not? Like, you don't always have to be tough, but I think you're just so capable of being your own hero. I really do.
So you were saying we didn't really answer it, right? Because I said, how'd you get so good at wrestling? Oh. But also you said something that I wanted. Why do you think Olympic lifting was why were you doing Olympic lifting?
So it was sort of part of the training program. So I never worked out ever because not athletic. I was
how could you have?
yeah, right. So we started Olympic lifting in Florida, in like the FCW program. Like
Okay.
they had a trainer come in.
So once you were part of WWE?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think so the first time I ever wrestled ever on the indies, I got pneumonia instantly because I had no meat on my bones. I was just like,
And are you still asthmatic?
not so much.
Okay.
I have a little inhaler just in case. But, I did pretty okay. But I thought I was never going to be able to wrestle because I was so underweight. And it just like murdered me the first time. So I had to like convince myself to come back to training like 2 weeks
Yeah.
later. And then like immediately broke my foot. And I was like, oh my
my
God,
God.
so fragile. So it was a lot of like, okay, how do you keep going? So I learned Olympic lifting and working out at all for the first time in FCW. And like just see like the changes in your body like instantly. When you start working out the first 2 months are where you're going to see the most changes. And then you'll like sort of plateau and it's going to be a little bit more uphill, but it's you sort of just keep chipping away at it. You'll see a lot of change at the beginning. That was really cool. It worked for me for a long time. I think I got like a squat record.
Oh,
for, like,
yeah.
squatting like double my body weight. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But like not sustainable. My SI joint's like, just hearing me say that out loud. So bad.
But you were now, you had the internal strength, but now you were putting on the physical strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, like, to me, a strong female body has always been the most attractive. I've always been so interested in women with muscles. And I find it interesting that there's like a subsection of men who don't like that, or like women who are afraid to get muscular. And I think that's like really interesting because I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Like I look at like Rhea and Jade and I'm like,
Right.
are you like, was you created in
it's
the lab?
ridiculous.
Like
I know.
what?
And Bianca and so many.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's just
Actual
amazing.
action figures.
That's
Yes,
what I
that's- yeah,
say.
yeah.
Yes, like that is the dream, right? And so like that's the ideal beauty to me. It always has been since 'cause strength was beauty to me when I was younger. So that is really cool. But to be able to do it in a way that like works for me, in particular to answer the ab question, I do weighted abs.
Oh, that's
So I have a
the
dumbbell
trick.
for all of the ab workouts.
Ab workouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every week, just one day that's all for abs.
Oh.
Yeah.
What day are we doing? Not Friday. Not
Oh my
Saturday.
gosh. But I will say also abs are like kind of genetic. Like it's sort of like your shape. Like some people can be
Right,
the
right,
most
right.
lean ever, but like their
They
shape is
still-
like
yeah,
different.
Just don't have them.
Yeah,
But
so
the
who
weights
knows?
are what bring out the thickness.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, you can accentuate
Because you've
them.
always had the look, but I've noticed now you have like a little more thickness.
Yeah, I let
Yeah.
myself. That's the other thing too. I think people are really afraid of gaining weight. But like I'm like 10 pounds heavier than I was back in the day. But it's like muscle. Like
Yeah,
let
you
yourself
look
gain weight, eat
fantastic.
food.
And your arms are all jacked.
Thank you.
Yeah, your shoulders. I mean, your shoulders have always been round, like round delts, but now they're a little bit bigger. And like you, and I saw you, you're hitting the bicep. Like you look awesome.
You are also an action figure.
you.
Yes. Yes.
We were talking about you too.
Literally.
But like this
also.
is tiny. But thank you. I would say I'm like a skipper doll next to like Barbie. It's like, but thank you. But I think it's like I love embracing that. I would try and get as like more jacked as I can. I think it's just the coolest look. to
Yeah,
me.
I agree. I've always been chasing.
Just gain weight.
I
Like
continue
eat
to
food.
chase. I have no problem gaining weight.
But a lot of people don't like carbs. They're afraid of carbs. It's like you need carbs.
Well, and you don't know then how many am I supposed to eat or what kinds of
Right,
carbs
right.
or, because
Yes.
it's confusing.
It is. Well, I would say to everybody, your cells are made of carbs and protein and fat. And so if you're not eating carbs and protein and fat, your body thinks it's dying and it shouldn't feel like it's in a fight or flight mode. It should feel safe and sustained. And that's how you get the healthiest body.
Yeah.
So don't deny yourself. You deserve food.
You deserve good nutrition.
Yes, nutrition
Yes.
feels strong. And then you
Yes.
can turn all that into muscle.
I actually just started working with a nutritionist, and I'm eating so much food. And for the first time, I'm eating like a lot of fiber, which I don't
Yes.
love. But it's because wreaking havoc on my stomach because I just haven't. And she said, I think your body has not ever had the sustenance that it needs.
Yeah.
Like she was asking about my eating habits and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I've cut carbs for, a very long period
Right.
of time. And she said she thinks I just haven't had, she wants to get me healthy. Before we start trying to reduce calories, she's
Right.
like, let's just get you in a sustained state where like your body actually has the nutrients that it needs.
Yes.
And when she said that, I was like, aha,
Yes,
It's
I
like,
love
I guess
that.
I really haven't been giving it what it needs.
But I feel
thinking I'm doing the
Yeah.
right thing, but
that's
maybe
not
I
our
wasn't.
fault. I feel like our generations have been like told skinny is the most ideal. And that's changing now. Like the world is
Yeah.
like embracing like being thick
Strong.
and like
Yeah.
and being
Thick.
strong. And like that is such a cool thing to see. But like I definitely grew up in the time where like my butt was big and it'd be like, oh, you're fat because your butt's big.
Because
And
your
it was
butt's big. Yeah. Now big butts are everything.
Yeah,
People
like,
are paying
pay
money
for
to
them.
get big extra.
Yeah. So
Little
it's
BBL.
interesting, like what like the media tells you is the ideal standard of beauty, and sort of how that you get indoctrinated young, and you have to unlearn a lot as you grow up and learn to love yourself.
Yeah, and I have, 3 daughters. So body image is something I try to be like, especially when I was raising, when they were younger. They're 19, 17, and 15 now, still very impressionable. But especially as they were growing up, I would try my best, and I'm sure I screwed up, but to not talk about it as like dieting or I'm so fat, I look terrible, and like putting that in their brains. And I think I still did it, and I was trying so hard not to, but I think because then when it was myself, You know, I wasn't always the kindest to myself, and they do hear everything. They
Yes.
really do.
I mean, how often do we have to say to each other, "Don't talk to my
Yeah,
friend
don't
that
do
way"?
that. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I say that a lot.
I feel like that's as we're beating ourselves up to the other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When you
Yes.
said having someone who has your back,
yes.
I mean, one of the first people to ever truly have my back is you.
Thank you. I'm like,
Yeah, sorry.
Or that
was a
person.
meaningful moment. That
thank you, sir.
pseudo,
just barged
pseudo
in.
interruption.
They were like, I would like some love too. Can I join this?
Can we jump into this? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to say, I have this memory. I think it was Aurora, where she came to the show with you, and she was dressed in a little suit. Do you remember this?
Yes,
Oh my God,
I do.
stop.
I do.
It is burned into my brain as one of the cutest things ever, where my ovaries just were glowing. And I was like, shut up.
Don't do
Stop it. But you were like standing by the ramp or by the barricade, and like there was a little person behind you. We couldn't see her, and she had like a little briefcase and a little suit on. And then she like it was like the same outfit that you were wearing, and then she like peeked out, and it was just like mini you, and every woman on the roster at the time was there, and we all like collectively like, oh, like it was the cutest thing ever. And I think I saw her at TV the other day. Wasn't she here?
Yes. Well, she loves the business.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
she always has. But she was on the road with me since she was born. I mean, I was pregnant on the road, and then we got the tour bus because, you know, we wanted to have a family, and we thought we'd homeschool on the bus and have our dogs on the bus and all this stuff. It didn't totally work out that way, but she was on the road till she was about 3.
Whoa.
Maybe even a little older. And I'd wheel her into the arena on my briefcase. I mean, we had like, she would come to the production meetings.
Oh my God.
I mean, for a moment, but she'd get on the mic and sing the ABCs or Twinkle,
my
Twinkle, Little
goodness.
Star. I mean, it was like the cutest.
she was just like, I'm going to wear a suit.
Oh,
to
and
the
then
show.
she said, Mommy, I don't want your job. Daddy, I don't want your job. I want Pop's job.
Oh my God.
So she wanted to be the boss from the get-go.
The right
And like,
attitude.
she is the boss.
Amazing. Amazing. Does she have like career goals? Because she's 19 now, right?
Yeah, so she's studying to get her doctorate in physical therapy.
Oh, whoa.
So she's she's taken, I guess, all of the injuries that we
She's
sustained.
like, I need to heal all those broken people. Wow.
Yeah, and she's taken it to another level. But
Amazing.
yeah, that's what she's studying.
That is so cool.
It's so cool.
I had to tell you that. I just remember that. So
No, it's so like so
vividly.
I don't have pictures of like out by ringside,
Yeah.
but I do have some pictures. I remember it so vividly, her little suit, and like I have no words.
it was very cute.
It was very cute. Very cute. I'm very blessed. I'm very, very, very blessed.
I'm sure everyone asks you this question, but like if they ever wanted to wrestle.
Oh, totally.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they would have to work really hard, right? And I think, you know, when you are the child of, you have to earn it more,
Right.
quite frankly, in order to appreciate the business, appreciate the people in the business. You know, respect is earned, not given.
Right.
And you have to earn it every day. And I think it would be, you know, harder for them in that respect, but I would completely support it. You know, our business is an amazing, wonderful place, and it can be.
Yeah.
And it's like any other business. It's not perfect, you know, but the people in our business are very special, I find. And I've had the privilege of growing up around all of these different types of people, you know, literally every different kind of person. And what I think is so special about our business in particular is it's like we're all, I don't know what it is, but I say we're all like the island of misfit toys. Like,
Very true.
you know, like
Yeah.
but we're a family. And I feel even our fans are a part of this family, like especially. And you grew up a fan, I grew up a fan. And I grew up in the stands, you know, and literally. And like wrestling fans are my people, you know, that's what I feel like anyway. And I just feel it's such a special environment of people who, you know, really are down to earth, just have a particular set of values, you know, and they know what they believe in. And I just feel very fortunate, you know, to be a part of it. And I would definitely encourage my kids if they wanted to be a part of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to see.
It would be. I mean, I don't rule it out for Aurora, you know, but and she's naturally gifted, like in the ring. Natty used to train her.
Oh, so she's like trained.
She
and
did.
buff.
No, a long time ago. Like, and then everything happened, you know, with my dad and the business, and I left. And I think I don't realize necessarily the impact that it had, especially on Aurora, but on all of my kids, because Aurora always saw a path forward through the business.
Oh, wow.
And when everything happened, suddenly that wasn't there anymore.
Oh,
And she had to shift her focus and what she thought she was going to do. And that happens in life anyway. I mean, you constantly change and all of that. But it was a path that she felt suddenly wasn't there anymore.
wow.
So who knows? She might find her way back to it. But Charlotte had a couple matches with her, trained with her.
Oh, my God.
Natty trained her. And they both said, like, what a natural in the ring she was. And so I remember she was about 2 years old. And I'm sorry, I keep sniffling. Hopefully that will do it. Otherwise, I'm going to go get a tissue. But
Oh, wait. They gave me
they're-
these 2 hours ago on the
they
worst.
did? Oh, thank you.
I forgot. I totally forgot. I'm so sorry.
They're like, the tissues. But we were in Waco, Texas, and Aurora was like 2-ish because, you know, Paul was a full-time talent and
Right.
I was on the business side, I think, at that time. And the only way we could be together is if I went on the road. So I would go on the road and bring Aurora. And here we were, and it was DX, and I forget who they were wrestling, but it was Sean and Paul, and they were getting the heat on Sean, and then they made the hot tag to Paul, and like I could feel her on my shoulders get excited,
Oh, my God.
and she understood the beats of the match.
Ah.
And it was like I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then after the match was over, you know, Paul and I always talked about not having them in front of the camera or everything, but he got so excited and he was so proud. He takes her off my shoulders and parades her around the arena. And when he
Lion King.
handed her back to me, her eyes were like this wide.
Oh,
and I
my
was like,
God.
oh no. She got bit by the bug in that moment. That was it. And I will never forget it. I knew exactly the moment.
2 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she'll always be a fan, you know. Does she wind up here one day? I don't know. But yeah, I would absolutely encourage it.
Oh, my God. She'll be my boss one day.
Definitely going to be
my
mine.
boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she is.
Gosh. Adorable.
Big news, WWE and sports fans. The world's #1 sports fan festival, Fanatics Fest, is making its return to New York City. Fanatics is bringing you closer to the leagues, teams, superstars, and athletes you love across 4 action-packed days in July.
Meet your favorite WWE superstars, get your hands on exclusive merch, catch live podcasts, and interact with the biggest names in sports.
Tickets go on sale November 13th, and fans of the show can get a 10% discount by using Steph10 at checkout. That's STEPH, the number 1, the number 0 at checkout. One thing we haven't talked about is your love story, which I
Right.
know you is very personal. But I'd love to know, like, how did you guys, you know, obviously I had my own life imitated art moment. But is there like a moment that you knew? Was it that kiss? Like, how did it happen?
Gosh, that's so funny. I mean, the really cool thing about this business is the fact that I can be like, our first kiss is televised, and then I put him.
As was mine, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, my
We
God.
were married and divorced before we actually dated.
What a life.
you may have just ruined my childhood.
Oh no! Yeah, we had a dry run.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We had a rehearsal.
Just ruined her child.
The chemistry was real.
Amazing.
though. The whole time the chemistry was real.
Aw.
And I'd be like, is he flirting? No, he's not. He can't be. Like, this is just a sort of, Steph, get this out of your head. You know,
Oh
like, what are
my
you talking about?
gosh.
Yeah.
And there's
this-
got to
the
be
whole
different
thing.
layers to that too. Being,
Many.
you know,
Many layers.
who you are.
Many onion.
Well, he was a
layers.
brave
Right?
soul.
He put his whole career on the line.
Yeah.
His entire career that he worked so hard for.
Right.
I mean,
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. I mean, that's sort of like we sort of had a dry run as well. Like we dated probably 2 years after our storyline. But our first kiss is on television, and then I put him through a table.
as one does.
Yes. Wrestling relationships. Yeah, I think we did. Or early on, I think you like respected me to the point of like in NXT, he was one of the announcers, and when everyone else was like shit on us, he would be like, "But AJ's cool." You know, like he was always like putting me over, and I think he just knew I like loved wrestling, and so like when we did the storyline together, I remember there was like he was supposed to say something really mean to me in like one of the live, one of the backstages that was like going on live, and it was live. So he didn't say the mean thing, and he like hit on me or something, like he wasn't supposed to. And I was like, that was so
You were like,
cool.
wait, that was
Yeah,
Okay.
it was not in the script, but he like took care of me, and I thought that was like really, really nice. And I think we just I don't know. It sort of
it evolved.
yeah, I think we were like friends first, dating other people, and then once we were both single at the same time, and I think a part of me was like, who knows? Let's try this out.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then I blinked, and we were married in like 2 months or something like that.
Wow.
But I do remember like we were when we were just friends, like zero romantic interest. We were talking at like a restaurant one time, and he was saying something about like, you know, that he knows he's never getting married. And a weird voice in my head went, "You know, you're gonna marry me." And I was like,
Really?
I was like, bitch, shut, who was that? Gene? I was like, what? And then I like didn't talk to him for probably like a year. I was like, that was freaked out by that.
Why did that go through my head?
Yeah, like, no, because I never
That's
wanted to get
amazing,
married.
though.
No, I don't believe in marriage. I still would be like, don't get married to people. It works for us. I don't think it lasts forever. I think people grow. I think people grow at different times. I think it's an institution, but for some reason, it was like this
It
is my
worked for you.
teammate. Like
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
team.
It's the partner.
Yeah. And so like it works for us. And, you know, I always like in my book, I say, you know, I kind of talk about like us getting together through the show. And then I say the rest of our story is just for us because like, I don't know, I get like scared that sometimes if you open the window, everyone's like, okay, now I'm going to sneak into the house, you know?
Right.
Like, I like to keep that. I give so much of myself when it comes to the mental health aspect that it's like, I want to protect the things that feel sacred. So I don't, it's not because I'm not proud of him. I'm so proud of him, but I don't like, you know, post him a lot. I don't talk about him a lot.
Sure. Well, that's your private.
Yeah.
life.
And he's
Yeah.
a bit the opposite. Like he's like, you know, the cutest, like heart on his sleeve.
He does
like,
love
yeah.
you so much. I think the world knows that.
It's very cute. He loves to post and like
It's very
talk about me in
sweet.
interviews. It's
It
very
is.
cute. I'm
It
trying to
is.
be more like open to that.
Well,
but
you do you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's your business.
His face when you returned, like you could just feel how proud.
Oh my God.
Oh, well, and especially after the match.
Oh yeah,
Like,
the whole night. But like, you could feel the love. It was
really
beautiful.
cute.
you can. You can feel it.
Look at.
Oh no. Oh my
Oh,
God.
I mean,
Stop.
it's just.
He's so funny. Like that whole like
And look at this shredded
I'm
body.
like, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I was trying to look at the cuteness there, but I went right to your abs again.
You can't
Damn.
not. When as soon as she walks out, it's like, look at those abs. My God.
One day a week.
And the best skipper ever. Skipping's hard.
you know what? I wasn't
It's a
gonna
lot of
do it.
cardio.
I wasn't gonna do it, and then it took over me.
It does. It has to. Yeah.
It was insane. Like I felt like because it's like a performance, right?
Sure,
like
sure.
to me, you always have to be a character, and that protects your real person.
Yes.
And so to me, it is a character that's on screen being, you know, terrible at times and like, you know, crazy at other times. And I
And
was like,
fun, generally.
and fun,
Yes.
But I didn't remember her, and I was like, how do I like drop into her? And the second the music hit and I went out, like I felt like my body felt hot. And I
That's
was
when
like,
it happens.
And she was out there like waiting.
Yeah.
And like I just like felt her like come through me.
Yeah.
It was like it was weird. And then the skip just was there.
It just happened.
Muscle memory.
And so it hasn't been announced yet, but by the time this airs.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
You're going to be in another match.
Yes. So I figured I was in a generation where we got like 7 minutes at max. And so I thought I would just jump into the deep end and do 30-minute matches and fucking war games, cage matches.
And have you ever been, I mean, you've never participated in a War Games match. Have you ever been in a steel cage?
Okay, I think the last time I was in a cage, never like as a wrestler.
Right.
I think it was in Madison Square Garden, like a house show. I was managing Nick at the time, and he had the briefcase. And I like did like the thing where I like, lose it, and I threw the briefcase, and I think I broke Charles Robinson's arm.
Oh, no.
Like it bounced off, and it gave him like a hairline fracture because he was like like stalling on the ground, and it like.
Oh.
And so that's my memory of like a cage match.
Oh,
is
no.
like,
yes. Time for a new memory.
yeah.
Yes.
So I just really.
But you're in there with quite the crew.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Gonna ease back into things.
Yeah, you know.
That's
how you do it.
But
Dip
it's
your toe in the water.
yeah. But the group of women are. I mean, there was this world in which it was just like a one and done, where it's just like come back and like have fun and like
Right.
see how you
Sure.
feel, and that's been a big thing too because of like I never wanted to feel how I felt mentally. For my last year was very hard for me, and so like I have been a little trepidatious and like what I'm committing to and what I can handle, and part of the appeal of like okay let's keep doing this was that group of women and
Yeah.
being like I'm like a fan of all of them, like I'll be like so happy to just be surrounded by them and get to like work with them. To just like kind of hang out with them in that way of like okay like trust this group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I give so much credit to the women, make it very appealing.
You're going to have a blast.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's going to be great. It's going to be an amazing match. You're going to shine with all of them. Like, it's going to be incredible. And here you are as an individual that's a part of this bigger group of women in the War Games match, in a match that probably you never could have imagined for our women
No.
at the time when you started, let alone being surrounded by all of them.
Yeah.
Not all of the women, but a big, huge chunk of
Yeah.
women. There was like 2 or 3,
Yeah.
as you mentioned before. And now our roster has grown so dramatically and is continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And these women who are coming up that are now a part of NXT, which has become our, third brand, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They really are. They're so incredible to watch in the ring. And you were such a huge part of all of this happening.
Thank you.
And now you get to enjoy it.
That is a weird thing.
Yeah.
It was such a dream, and I remember very vividly car rides with like Caitlin and being like, if just one more chick gets a shot that I got,
Yeah.
like everything would be worth it. Like if just one more can come through, and it's just like to see every single woman on the roster is so talented and different and special, and their looks are like the 10th most interesting thing about them. Like they have so many skills, and they're people that I would have been a fan of as a kid.
Yeah.
And to like see that and like somehow come back and like play with them is it's insane. It really is.
Well, we will be cheering you on.
Thank you.
For sure.
And we are so grateful for absolutely everything that you've done and continue to do. I can't wait to watch your movie that's going to come out,
you.
your projects. I'm going to look at them so differently now, with the lens of how you created them and why you created them and where it comes from, and just your sense of story.
Thank you.
And the fact that every person is their own hero.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's the best possible message.
Thank you.
So thank you.
This was fun.
No, this was so fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See, I told you it wasn't a wrestling podcast.
Just a couple of girls chatting.
Yeah.